Life is so much more than cancer. If we look across the patient's journey of cancer, rehab has a place everywhere. So I mean that in the sense of we want to see patients prehab, so before they've sort of experienced the impact of treatment, in the midst of treatment to help them stay as strong and as functional as possible. And then we have a very strong role in survivorship because many of these side effects of the disease or of the treatments last and it impacts their function long term. So rehab always has a role in that. And so when patients come to us, it doesn't really matter where they are in that trajectory. We have goals and we have priorities we can work with them on and help them to maximize their function and their quality of life. And so there's a role throughout the spectrum, and that's what really makes us, I think, so valuable for all patients. We also work in the constraints of what is possible for that patient. So what I mean by that is a patient may not be ready at one point in their treatment to think about an exercise program or think about coming to therapy once a week. And so one of the things that our team does beautifully is we meet them where they're at. So if they're able to come and see us and are very motivated, we capitalize on that. But we also will oftentimes see patients, assess how they're doing, assess if rehab makes sense at that point in time, and then we will make recommendations together with them around, maybe after this treatment regimen, or this is what you can do right now. Or very often we'll say to patients, there is things we can do when you don't feel well. Please still come to your visit. And I think that that's a really powerful message because one of the things we want patients to not think of is we're not just there to make them sort of hurt worse or make it harder. We're there to actually help them. So when we talk about what exercises or activities that they should be doing, we're really focused on empowering them in that moment. And sometimes that means that we're just helping them to get out of a chair easier. And then other times we're helping them to ski down the mountain. And so that is a very different dynamic, but our team is very skilled in meeting patients where they're at. And I think that's the ability and the skill that we have is throughout the cancer trajectory, you can come to rehab and we can deliver on where the patient's at and what their goals are. And I think a lot of it is that conversation with patients about what steps we have to take to get there. So yes, this is where you're at today, but it doesn't mean that that's impossible, but there's a lot of work we have to do together. And I think that's the big emphasis we have, and I know in medical nutrition too, is we do this together. There's a partnership, and that's where that empowerment comes from, is like we become coaches to our patients in a sense of these are the steps we have to take, and also being honest with them about the setbacks that potentially could happen, and that's okay, and it's normal for that. But we're going to be there to help you get through those.
And I think for services like ours, the idea that you're coming back and you have a relationship, it creates a safe space in a way to really build the trust and really be able to know that if you have questions, you have someone to call. You're not just having a visit one time, and that's fine if you just need a one-time visit. But if you want to continue to have follow-up and it's indicated, that's really how we can start to establish these types of relationships and really talk to people about what comes next. And Lexi mentioned that as we get into survivorship, that's an important part of counseling, is also recognizing this might be something you're experiencing now, but it will go away around this time. Your diet won't have to be this way forever. You will recover your GI function, or to address the side effect of you won't actually. Like there may be long-lasting changes if you've had major surgeries to remove some of your intestine or part of your stomach. And then it's around what are the evidence ways to eat to avoid symptoms so you can maintain your quality of life. And those are the kinds of things, I think Lexi mentioned it, that having that relationship, having that expertise, we can bring to the table, no pun intended, but just being able to really talk through that, because people don't always know, and it's important to recognize what's temporary and what might be more long lasting.
Another thing that we do is impart just this sort of ability for patients to see what is possible in those moments, because I think when they're going through oncology treatment and care, it is hard, and the last thing sometimes they want to do is do these 5 exercises or work on my ability to swallow this particular consistency of a food or whatever it is. But if we can help kind of walk through that with them and really allow them to sort of just see that they are getting to where they need to be. That's where that passion piece comes in, because it's not just about us checking off the PT goals. It's about what matters to that person, that relationship that we have with those patients. And I was just thinking as you were talking, Kerry, it's just like always so heartwarming to see patients that come back for a variety of reasons, for long-term follow-up visits or a survivorship visit, and they come by and they share their appreciation for care that you provided years ago to them. I can think of a number of patients where they would say that to me, and I would have to take a moment to think about, because you see so many patients, but then you remember and you think, gosh, you know, I didn't know if I was making a difference in that moment, and it has been incredibly rewarding to see the power that you made to that person in that moment. And that's where that relationship comes, that they remember years later how much difference that made. And so that definitely motivates our team for sure.